Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are slipping quietly into a world where shadows stretch wide across a landscape that hasn't felt a human footstep in millions of years. Above you, the sky is endless, scattered with stars that blink like the eyes of forgotten gods. The air is cool, heavy, with the scent of damp earth and ancient plants. Your boots crunch softly on the cracked ground as you move, careful not to trip over low shrubs and half-buried stones. And there just ahead is what you've come to see, a herd of dinosaurs settling down for the night. On the open plain, their hulking forms silhouetted against the darkening horizon. You pause, heart-thudding, not just from the sight, but because you probably won't survive 5 minutes out here if they notice you or if something else does first. This is no place for the uninvited. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And drop a comment to let me know where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle a little closer, the grass wet beneath your feet and the ground uneven from the deep prints left by massive creatures. The herd is made up of animals larger than your house, their tails swishing slowly, their heads lowering as they begin to settle. These are titanosaurs, huge, long-necked plant eaters whose size alone keeps most predators at bay. But even giants have to sleep, and here on the plain, danger is never far. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs truly formed herds to sleep for warmth or only for defense, but what you see tonight suggests the answer might be both. The bodies move deliberately, slow but sure, like dancers in an ancient ritual. One thunders past you close enough that the ground shivers beneath your feet. Its breath is like a gust of warm wind, carrying with it the smell of half-digested plants and mud. You resist the urge to sneeze. Funny thing, titanosaurs probably ate over 100 pounds of leaves a day, yet somehow they're picky about where they sleep. You watch as they choose the driest patch of earth, circling it with massive feet. In the distance, you hear a nightbird give a lonely cry. It sounds almost like someone whistling, someone trying to find their way back to camp. But of course, there is no camp, no one waiting up for you, just the herd and the wide, dark plain. The dinosaurs begin to lower themselves to the ground, first bending their forelimbs, then folding the massive hind legs. It looks awkward, but they've had millions of years to practice this move. You can almost hear the joints creak under the strain. One animal lets out a deep rumbling sigh that seems to shake the air itself. Nearby, a small insect, some ancient relative of the cricket, hops onto your boot and stares up at you as if to say, "What are you doing here anyway?" You flick it off gently. The herd begins to quiet. Their heads tuck low, and the sound of breathing slow and steady fills the night. If you had a thermal camera, and don't we all wish we had one right now, you'd see the heat of their bodies pooling around them, a warm glow against the chill of the plain. There's a saying among some paleontologists: if you want to find the truth about dinosaurs, follow their feet. Fossilized trackways tell us a lot about where these creatures went, how fast they moved, and sometimes if they moved together. But when it comes to sleep, the ground keeps its secrets. You glance down at the hardened earth and wonder what stories it could tell, if only you knew how to listen. A breeze picks up, carrying the scent of water from a distant river. Somewhere far off, something crashes through the underbrush, too small to be another giant, but maybe big enough to worry about. You crouch low, trying to blend into the sparse grass. It's hard not to laugh at yourself, as if anything out here wouldn't notice you immediately. A mosquito lands on your neck, and you swat it away with a muttered curse. Imagine surviving dinosaurs only to be taken down by an insect. Above, the stars shift slowly, the constellations unfamiliar yet somehow comforting. You feel the weight of the ages pressing down, the knowledge that this scene has played out thousands of times before and will go on long after you're gone. The herd settles deeper into rest, the younger ones pressing closer to the adults as if even their colossal bodies can't quite chase away the night's chill. You shiver and pull your jacket tighter, wishing you could borrow some of their warmth. Odd fact for you, some ancient insects from this period, like giant dragonflies, had wingspans as wide as a modern seagull. Imagine that buzzing past your ear tonight. The thought makes you grin despite yourself. A shooting star streaks across the sky, and for a moment everything goes still. The herd, the wind, even your own breathing. And then the night moves on. The dinosaurs sleep, or at least do their best. And you stay awake listening to the rhythms of the ancient plain, trying to learn what secrets the herd keeps as they rest beneath the endless stars. The giant shapes ahead begin to shift, and you watch half hidden behind a low rise as the herd arranges itself into what can only be called a living fortress. One by one, the biggest dinosaurs move deliberately into place, forming a loose circle, with their heads angled outward, their massive tails overlapping just enough to create a barrier of flesh and bone. It's a defensive masterpiece, and you feel for just a second like you've stumbled on the blueprint for some ancient fortress, except this one is made of breathing, snorting, steaming creatures that could crush you flat without noticing. Historians still debate whether these circles were really deliberate or simply the accidental result of giants trying to find a comfortable spot. But watching tonight, you'd be hard-pressed to believe this was anything but strategy. A low rumble rolls across the plain as one of the larger sauropods vocalizes a deep bass note that seems to come from the ground itself. You feel it in your chest more than you hear it. The sound is answered by another, then another, as the herd communicates in their slow, ponderous language. You can't help but grin. If only you could record this for your subscribers, the ultimate prehistoric ASMR. Maybe you'd finally hit 1 million views. Closer now, you see their skin glisten in the moonlight, thick and cracked like ancient leather, with patches where proto-feathers cling stubbornly, relics of warmer times. One animal turns its head slightly, and for a heart-stopping moment you think it sees you. The eye, dark as obsidian, glints under the stars, but then it shifts its gaze, satisfied that no threat lurks nearby, at least none worth getting up for. An owl-like creature, not quite a bird, not quite a dinosaur, flits overhead, letting out a soft hoot that echoes strangely in the open air. It reminds you of home or of camping trips long ago when you thought ghost stories were the worst thing waiting in the dark. A small joke comes to mind. What did the dinosaur say when it saw the meteor? Well, this is going to ruin dinner plans. You almost laugh out loud, but catch yourself not wanting to draw attention. You move along the edge of the scene, taking care not to disturb the brittle plants underfoot. The circle of giants is complete now. Their necks curved like massive question marks, their heads low, but eyes half open. The younger ones, less experienced, shift nervously, bumping into each other as they try to mimic the adults. A mother, or what you guess is a mother, nudges a smaller one gently back into position with the tip of her snout. That little one looks just about as awkward as a human teenager at their first school dance. Here's an odd fact to chew on. Some ancient plants that these giants grazed on were so tough they may have evolved specifically to withstand being eaten. It's as if the plants were saying, "Nice try, buddy, but I'll be here when you're done chewing." And yet somehow both plant and beast survived for millions of years, locked in that slow green battle. The night deepens. The stars brighten as if leaning in to watch this ancient ritual. The air grows colder, and you pull your jacket tighter around you. The circle of dinosaurs seems almost to pulse, their combined warmth rising like mist. You can feel it from here, a subtle shift in temperature that reaches you on the breeze. It's strange how comforting that is, like standing near a campfire you didn't build. The ground beneath your feet tells its own story. Cracked and dry in places, soft and muddy in others, it holds the deep prints of these animals, prints that might survive long enough to become fossils if they're lucky. You crouch down, placing your hand in one of the fresh depressions. It's as wide as your chest and twice as deep as your boot is tall. You wonder if someday a curious scientist will find this very print puzzled by its solitary location on the plain's edge. A light wind stirs the grass, and you catch a scent on the air, warm, earthy, mixed with the sharper tang of crushed plants. It's not unpleasant, just ancient, like stepping into a room no one's entered for centuries. The sound of breathing fills the air again, that slow rhythm of life at rest. You could almost fall asleep yourself, lulled by it, if not for the voice in your head reminding you that you're one wrong move away from becoming a footnote in prehistory. As you shift your weight, a stone skitters down the slope beside you. The nearest dinosaur twitches an ear, yes, they had ears of a sort, and lets out a soft grunt but doesn't rise. The circle holds. No alarm is sounded. You let out the breath you didn't realize you were holding. Maybe you're getting better at this whole prehistoric fieldwork thing, or maybe you're just incredibly lucky. Either way, you stay very, very still. The night stretches on and the herd remains in its circle, a fortress of warmth and muscle against the dark. Theories abound about this behavior. Some scientists argue it was instinct, a holdover from smaller ancestors who needed protection from predators. Others think it was about conserving body heat on cold nights like this one. And of course, some say the truth was probably a little bit of both. But standing here now watching them, you suspect it wasn't just survival. There's something almost tender in the way they arrange themselves, in the slow, careful movements that protect the smallest members of the group. You glance up at the sky once more. The moon has risen higher, casting its pale light over the scene. The circle of giants glows faintly in the silver haze, a forgotten mural brought to life. You shift your position slightly, the cold seeping through your clothes, and wonder how long you can stay before the night claims you too. You inch a little closer, careful to keep low behind a knotted clump of ancient shrubs. The circle of giants breathes in unison, and from here you can see details that make your skin prickle with awe. The surfaces of their bodies aren't smooth like you might expect from childhood picture books. No, up close, they're a patchwork of textures. Broad stretches of tough, cracked scales catch the moonlight like old bark. But scattered between those armored patches are tufts of proto-feathers, delicate as weeds clinging to a cliff. You blink, almost disbelieving. Historians still debate whether sauropods or their kin sported these proto-feathers as adults, or if the fuzz belonged only to their young. But tonight, in this imagined moment, you see the past laid bare in all its ragged beauty. One of the giants shifts its bulk and the earth trembles beneath you. As it settles again, you notice the scars along its flank, old wounds. Some long-healed, others newer still, puckered and raw. The marks of battles fought and survived. You wonder what predator dared attack something so massive, and whether that predator still lurks out there in the dark. The thought sends a chill through you, sharper than the night air. You pause to rub your arms for warmth, and in doing so disturb a rock near your foot. It shifts and reveals a flash of color, fossilized wood maybe, or an ancient tooth weathered smooth. Either way, a tiny relic of the age you're trespassing in. A small, stupid part of you wants to pocket it, but you know better. This is their place, not yours. A breeze stirs again, and you catch the smell of the herd. It's complicated. There's the rich scent of damp earth, of trampled ferns, of crushed pine-like shrubs. There's the musk of bodies that have lived through countless seasons. And underneath it all, there's something else, a faint sourness, maybe the smell of fear or fatigue, or both. You pull your collar up against it, but it lingers anyway. Closer still, and you can make out the subtle movement of their skin as they breathe, the slow rise and fall, the faint ripple of muscle under hide, as it's mesmerizing. You lose track of time, watching the pattern as steady and hypnotic as waves against a shore. For a moment, it feels as if the herd is the world's heart beating slow and sure against the dark. A juvenile shifts nervously near the edge of the group, and an adult extends its massive tail protectively, drawing the young one back into the safety of the ring. The motion is so smooth, so instinctive, that it might as well be a mother pulling a blanket over a sleeping child. The sight tugs at something deep in you. You've seen humans do the same at campfires and in doorways. Maybe warmth is always worth protecting no matter the species. And speaking of warmth, here's a strange tidbit to lighten the mood. Some of the smaller dinosaurs of this era may have slept in burrows or hollows snuggled up like prehistoric guinea pigs. You can't help but grin at the image. Imagine stumbling onto one of those nests and getting an earful of angry feathered squeaks. Above you, the stars have shifted again. The familiar constellations are missing, replaced by patterns long since forgotten. You try to trace shapes in them. Anyway, a giant tail here, a claw there. A cloud drifts over the moon, casting the plane into deeper shadow. The herd stirs uneasily, as if feeling the change even before it happens. A gust of colder air rolls down from the distant hills and you shiver despite your layers. The giants press closer together, the gaps between bodies disappearing as they form a solid patchwork mass. From above, it would look like an island adrift on a sea of grass. The thought makes you smile until you remember what often happens to castaways. You crouch lower, the cold biting at your fingertips now. The herd seems settled again, but you sense that their sleep is always light, always half ready for trouble. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs truly entered deep sleep like modern birds, or if their nights were spent in this wary doze. Tonight they seem caught somewhere in between. A rustle nearby makes you freeze. You slowly turn your head expecting, well, you don't know what. But it's just a prehistoric insect, big as your hand, crawling out from under a rock. It pauses, seems to give you the same, "What are you doing here?" look, as that cricket relative earlier then scurries off into the dark. You exhale a shaky laugh. This night is full of strange company. You shift position again, numbness creeping into your legs. The herd breathes on the sounds blending into the night's chorus, the whisper of wind through the grass, the distant splash of water, the occasional cry of some unseen creature. The smell of the herd is everywhere now, thick and cloying, but not unpleasant once you get used to it. It's the smell of life, of survival, of endurance. A shooting star crosses the sky, bright enough to light the plane for a heartbeat. In that flash, you see the herd in all its patchwork glory scales, feathers, scars, and all. And then the darkness returns deeper than before. You stay where you are, listening, watching, breathing in time with the giants of the plain, as the ancient night wraps itself tighter around you. You shift your weight carefully, the ground cold and uneven beneath your boots, and fix your gaze on the heart of the herd. There, where the bodies cluster thickest, the youngest dinosaurs have found their place. You can just make out their smaller shapes half hidden beneath the massive bellies and thick tails of their guardians. The little ones, if you can call creatures the size of a small car, little pressed so tightly together you'd swear they're fused a single trembling mass of scales, fuzz, and bony knobs. Every so often, one lifts its head, eyes wide and alert, scanning the night like a nervous sentinel before tucking it down again beneath a neighbor's flank. The adults around them stand or kneel in a loose ring, the protective barrier of muscle and bone you saw take shape earlier. Their great sides heave gently with each breath, and the warmth they give off rises in waves mingling with the cold night air. You almost envy the juveniles nestled in the living shelter of their herd. Historians still debate whether this behavior was purely for warmth, or whether the herd instinct evolved first for defense and only later became a tool against the elements. But standing here now, you can see how both could be true at once. A sharp wind cuts across the plain and the young huddle tighter. You rub your arms and wonder how long you can last in this cold without a herd of your own to block the breeze. It's the kind of chill that seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you wish for a campfire or at least a halfway decent coat. But you've got neither, so you stay low, watching and shivering. One juvenile, braver or perhaps dumber than the rest, edges out toward the gap between two adults. A tail swings in gently but firmly, herding it back into place. It reminds you of a teacher at recess steering a wayward student away from danger. There's a kind of silent communication here, gestures and nudges passed back and forth like invisible messages. You can almost hear it in your head. Stay close. Keep warm. Watch the shadows. Somewhere beyond the circle, the night offers up another sound, the distant wail of a predator. A low, drawn-out cry that seems to stretch across the miles. It's the kind of sound that makes your skin crawl, even though you know the herd's sheer size is probably enough to keep danger at bay. Probably. Still, you glance over your shoulder just in case. And here's an odd little fact to chew on while you crouch in the dark. Fossilized dinosaur nests have been found with traces of ancient plants, as if the parents lined them with greenery. Whether it was for warmth, camouflage, or just because it made a nice bed, no one's quite sure. But you can imagine these giants doing something similar, if only instinctively gathering their young close and offering the warmth of their own bodies as shelter. The youngest dinosaurs are more visible now, the moon slipping from behind a cloud and bathing the plain in silver. You see them pressed so tight that their sides rise and fall together as if they share a single breath. Their eyes glimmer faintly in the light, wide and wary. You wonder what they dream about, if they dream at all. Do they imagine the chase of some distant predator, the rustle of leaves in a sunlit forest? Or are their minds as quiet as the night around them? A gust of wind sends a shiver through the herd, and a ripple passes through the young, a wave of motion as they press even closer. The adults grunt softly, reassuring, steadying. One lets out a deep, slow rumble that vibrates through the ground and seems to settle the group. It settles you too in a way. The sound is so low and steady, like the world itself humming a lullaby. You shift your position again, pins and needles creeping into your legs. The cold bites harder now, and you wonder, not for the first time tonight, how long you can stay out here without becoming part of the fossil record yourself. But still, you stay unwilling to tear your eyes from this ancient living sculpture. The youngest dinosaurs blink slowly, their breathing deepening, their bodies stilling as sleep finally takes them, or the closest thing to sleep a creature on constant alert can manage. Historians still debate whether these herds had designated sentries or if all shared the burden of vigilance equally. Some evidence hints at specialized roles, but tonight, it looks like every adult is watching, every eye half-lidded but ready. And beneath that wall of watchfulness, the youngest sleep, warmed by the bodies of their kin, protected by the sheer size and strength of the group. Above, the stars wheel slowly across the sky, a silent clock marking the passage of this long, cold night. The moonlight glimmers on scales and feathers, on scars and ancient armor, casting strange shadows on the ground. You shiver again, but this time not just from the cold. It's the weight of the scene, the sense that you're seeing something both ordinary and extraordinary. A simple need for warmth turned into a ritual that spans the ages. A shooting star flares and fades, and for a moment the young in the center seem to glow with borrowed light. Then darkness returns, and all you can hear is the slow, steady breath of giants keeping their smallest safe. You shift your position, knees stiff, fingers chilled, and watch the slow, hypnotic rhythm of the herd's breathing. From where you crouch, the air seems alive with it, each exhale rising as a soft plume of steam illuminated by the moonlight, like tiny ghosts drifting skyward. The night is colder now, the kind of cold that makes your breath fog up your vision for a second before the breeze whisks it away. The collective warmth of the herd forms a kind of invisible shield against the chill, and you can almost feel it from here, pulsing softly like the heat from an oven door left ajar. It's strangely beautiful, this quiet exchange between creature and air. Their breath mingles, forming a misty halo that hovers above the group before vanishing into the dark. Historians still debate whether these great beasts were warm-blooded or something in between, mesothermic they call it. Not quite as toasty as a mammal, not as sluggish as a reptile. But here, watching the way their heat cuts through the night, it's hard to imagine them anything but alive with warmth. The youngest dinosaurs remain pressed tightly together. Small heads resting against flanks, tails curled beneath bellies. Every so often one shifts, disturbing the perfect pattern, and the mist of breath shifts with it, reshaping like smoke from a campfire. The adults around them stand or kneel, their eyes half-lidded, always watching. You can almost believe they feel the cold more keenly tonight, that they draw in closer, not just for the young but for themselves. A herd is many things: defense, family, shelter, and right now it's their only refuge against the biting wind. You take a deep breath and immediately regret it. The air is thick with the herd's scent now, earthy, sharp, not unpleasant but overwhelming. It fills your nose, coats your tongue, settles in your throat. You cough softly, trying not to make a sound, and wipe at your eyes as they water. You knew this was a bad idea. You always know it's a bad idea, but you do it anyway. That's kind of your thing? The mist thickens as the night grows colder. Your own breath joins the herd's, though yours is a frail little puff compared to the giants. You rub your hands together, trying to summon a bit of heat. It works for about 3 seconds. You glance at the herd and a dark thought crosses your mind. If you could just sneak into that circle just for a minute, maybe you wouldn't feel the cold so much. Of course, that would also get you flattened, but hey, warm and flat beats cold and conscious, right? A small joke flickers in your head. What do you call a cold dinosaur? A chillosaurus. You smirk despite yourself, teeth chattering now. Even here on the edge of survival, humor refuses to die. Above the stars, blaze brighter. Or maybe your eyes have just adjusted to the dark. The moon casts everything in silver, the backs of the giants, the steam of their breath, even the ground cracked and dry beneath their feet. You notice for the first time how the heat of their bodies has melted the thin frost where they lie, creating little pockets of damp earth in the otherwise frozen plain. It's a map of warmth written in mud and steam. And here's an odd fact to distract yourself. Some prehistoric ferns could grow taller than a house, creating forests so dense you could get lost for days. Imagine trying to find your way out of that with nothing but moonlight and your wits. Actually, you're probably better off here with the dinosaurs. At least they're predictable mostly. The herd shifts again. The adults drawing closer, the young burrowing deeper into the living wall. A soft grunt here, a low rumble there, messages passed in sound and motion. You wonder if they dream. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs had REM sleep like birds do. Were their nights filled with visions of chasing or being chased, of lush forests or roaring rivers? Or did they simply rest empty of thought, waiting for the sun? Your teeth chatter so hard now, it feels like they might crack. You press your hands under your arms, willing some warmth into them. The herd doesn't seem to notice your presence, or maybe they do, and simply don't care. The cold presses in from all sides, but the heat of their breath, the warmth of their bodies pushes back. You can almost see the battle play out in the air, cold and heat night and life locked in a slow dance above the plain. Another gust of wind carries the herd's scent, the sharp tang of ancient life, and you close your eyes for a second, letting it fill your senses. When you open them again, the mist of their breath is thicker still, and the stars seem further away like distant watchers, growing bored of the scene below. A predator's cry slices through the night, distant but clear. The herd tenses, breath misting faster, eyes gleaming under the moon. The young press closer, the adults tighten their circle, and you freeze, heart pounding. But the danger passes, at least for now, and the slow rhythm of breath resumes, steam rising into the cold sky like a promise that life endures. Your heart still thuds in your chest from the predator's cry, the echo of it lingering in the cold air like a challenge unanswered. You crouch lower, hoping the night swallows your shape entirely. The herd, too, holds its breath, at least that's how it feels. The mist of their exhalations thins for a moment as their great lungs pause, listening. And then, just as slowly, just as carefully, the rhythm returns. But now, every eye that had been half-lidded is wide, scanning the shadows beyond the protective circle. And there in the distance you see it. A shape, low and sinewy, gliding through the tall grass like a ripple on a dark pond. It's a predator, no doubt about it. too small to challenge the adults directly, but dangerous nonetheless. Maybe it's hoping for a straggler. Maybe it's hoping the cold has dulled the herd's reflexes. Historians still debate what predators hunted these colossal creatures, whether packs of smaller carnivores worked together or if lone hunters gambled everything on surprise. Tonight, it looks like you'll get a front row seat to the argument. The predator pauses at the edge of the clearing, low to the ground, eyes glinting faintly in the moonlight. You strain to make out its details, a raptor perhaps, or one of those wiry meat eaters that scavenge as much as they hunt. It looks hungry, but more than that, it looks cautious. It's no fool. One misstep and the swing of a tail, the stamp of a foot could end it in a heartbeat. A low rumble rolls through the herd. It's not loud, not a roar, more like a warning note on a distant drum. The adults shift tails, tightening the barrier. Heads lowering in unison, eyes locked on the intruder. You can feel the tension ripple through the air, a crackle of energy that makes the hairs on your neck stand on end. And here's a thought to amuse yourself while the night decides what comes next. Some paleontologists argue that certain dinosaurs might have had vocal sacs, like modern birds capable of producing sounds. We can't even imagine deep, booming notes that carried for miles or eerie flute-like calls that could freeze the blood. You wonder what this predator would do if it heard one of those now. The hunter edges closer, its steps so quiet you wouldn't hear them even if you were standing right there. It circles, trying to find a weakness, an opening between tails and feet, and watchful eyes. But there is none. The herd's formation is solid, a fortress of flesh and instinct. The young stay pressed in the center, their breath coming faster now, their small sides heaving in silent panic. You can almost hear their hearts pounding, or maybe that's just yours. The predator stops, crouches tail, twitching. You brace yourself, expecting a charge, but no. After a long, breathless moment, it slinks back, vanishing into the grass as quietly as it came. The herd holds position for a time, wary, waiting to see if the threat has truly passed. And then slowly, the tension ebbs. Heads lift, tails relax, and the slow rhythm of breath resumes. The mist of their exhalations thickens again, rising in steady clouds that glow faintly in the moonlight. You let out the breath you didn't realize you were holding and sag against the ground, muscles trembling with relief. It's funny, your modern brain tells you that you're safe, that this is just a story you've stumbled into, an imagined moment. But your body doesn't know the difference. Your body thinks you've just escaped becoming part of the food chain. Above, the stars seem closer now, as if drawn by the drama below. The moon bathes the plain in silver light, and the herd seems almost a shimmer in it, their breath and bodies forming a single living shape. Historians still debate whether predators truly fear the adults of these herds, or if they simply learn to wait for the right moment, the straggler, the sick, the young one who wandered too far. You've just seen why they waited. The cost of a mistake was simply too high. And here's an odd fact to ponder as you catch your breath: some ancient crocodilians from this period could grow as long as a city bus, and might have been the true terror of rivers and lakes, snapping up anything that strayed too close to the water's edge. The thought makes you glance nervously toward the dark line of trees in the distance, where a stream gleams faintly under the stars. The herd settles again, their warmth rising into the cold night, their breath misting like smoke from 1,000 hidden fires. You stay where you are, heart still racing, eyes wide, ears straining for any hint of danger. But for now, the plain is quiet. The predator has gone. The herd sleeps, or at least does its best. And you stay frozen between wonder and fear, watching the breath of giants rise into the ancient night. The night stretches on deeper and darker, as the plain lies cloaked in silence once more. But the peace is fragile, you can feel it like the hush before a storm. And sure enough, the wind begins to shift, carrying with it a new weight, a moisture that wasn't there before. You tilt your head, sniff the air, and there it is, the faint sharp tang of rain on the way. The herd senses it too. Heads rise, nostrils flare, and the slow, steady breathing you've come to recognize begins to quicken. The warmth of their bodies rises faster, now visible as thicker steam that curls and dissipates into the chill. Historians still debate how much the weather shaped herd behavior in these giants. Did they have the foresight to seek shelter before a storm, or did they endure the elements in place, trusting their size and numbers to see them through? Tonight you're about to find out firsthand. The wind cuts sharper, and with it comes the first cold drops, large and heavy, splashing on the cracked earth like stones. The herd stirs, the circle rippling, as individuals shift their weight, adjust their stance, realign to face the weather. A low rumble, almost like thunder, rolls from one of the adults. Not a warning this time, but a communication, a signal you can't interpret but feel in your bones. The others respond in kind, a chorus of deep, resonant notes that blend with the rising wind. The sound isn't loud, but it carries vibrating through the ground beneath you. You feel like a tuning fork set, humming by the voices of ancient giants. The rain picks up a steady patter that turns the dust beneath the herd into dark, sticky mud. You watch as the dinosaurs adjust again, this time drawing closer, their bodies overlapping more fully, the gaps in the circle vanishing. It's as if they're knitting themselves into a single massive creature, a wall of heat and muscle and resolve. The young are hidden now, completely engulfed by the protective mass, their small sounds muffled by the layers of flesh and bone sheltering them. And here's an odd fact to break the tension. Some of the earliest known flowering plants appeared around this time, small and unassuming, but destined to change the world. Imagine a drizzle like this falling on the first blossoms, unnoticed by the giants, but quietly rewriting the future of life on Earth. A gust of wind topples a dead tree in the distance, the crack of its fall, sharp and startling in the otherwise muffled world of rain and breath. The herd doesn't flinch. They're focused inward now, weathering the storm together. You, on the other hand, jump so hard you nearly lose your footing. You curse softly under your breath and steady yourself against a rock, feeling very small indeed. The downpour intensifies the night, filling with the hiss of rain against scales, feathers, and earth. The steam from the herd mingles with the rain's mist, creating a strange shimmering haze that blurs the lines between bodies, between giants and air. You can barely make out individual shapes now, just the swell and fall of forms, the subtle shift of shoulders, the slow sway of tails adjusting for balance. Historians still debate whether storms like this would have driven dinosaurs to seek caves, dense forests, or if standing their ground was the better strategy. Tonight the herd chooses to stay, to form their living fortress and trust in each other's strength. And as you watch, soaked through, chilled to the bone, you can't help but admire the simplicity of it. No shelter built of wood or stone could match the warmth and resilience of bodies united against the storm. Your own body shakes, now teeth chattering uncontrollably. The rain seeps into every seam of your clothing and you huddle lower, trying to steal a bit of shelter from the rock. It doesn't help much. A joke flickers through your mind, something about needing a dinosaur-sized umbrella, but it's lost to the cold before it can make you smile. Lightning forks across the sky, illuminating the plain in stark white for a heartbeat. In that flash, the herd seems frozen, a monument carved from the storm itself. And then, darkness crashes back deeper than before. The rain drums on relentless as the wind tugs at the grass, the shrubs, your hair. You take a deep breath and the air is full of the smell of wet earth, crushed plants, and the sharp tang of ozone. It's not unpleasant, it's alive. Every part of the night seems to hum with energy, the storm, the herd, even you standing witness to this forgotten ritual. And as the rain pours down, you realize something. You're not just watching the herd survive the storm. You're part of it now. Another creature braving the night, drawn close to the warmth of the giants, hoping morning comes soon. The rain softens for a moment, but only long enough to offer false hope before the wind picks up, driving the cold deeper into your bones. The plain, once dry and cracked, has turned to muck beneath your boots, sucking at your feet each time you shift your weight. But you hardly notice now. Your focus is fixed on the herd and on the shape moving at its edge. There, near the outermost tails, a figure stumbles. You squint through the rain, heart sinking. One of the herd's elders, perhaps. The creature is massive, but not as massive as it once was. Its shoulders slump, its steps drag. It's fallen behind, caught between the protective circle and the storm. Its strength no match for the long night and the unrelenting weather. Historians still debate whether dinosaur herds slowed for their weakest members or pressed on without them. Tonight you see the harsh truth play out before your eyes. The old giant tries to rejoin the circle, but each step seems heavier than the last. Mud clings to its feet, its legs as if the earth itself conspires to pull it down. You can almost feel the animal's exhaustion, the weight of seasons etched in every line of its sagging skin, in the way it leans into the storm as though begging the wind to let it pass. A younger adult notices shifts, takes a step toward the straggler, but then hesitates, torn between aiding its kin and holding the line. The circle is everything tonight: protection, warmth, survival. And breaking it could invite disaster. The younger one rumbles low, a sound that's equal parts sorrow and warning before settling back into position. The straggler is left to fight its battle alone. You swallow hard, throat tight. The rain hides your face, and for that you're grateful. It's one thing to imagine the brutal choices of prehistory. It's another to see them unfold. And here's an odd fact to break the tension a little. During the time of these giants, the poles weren't always frozen. Some regions saw warm, wet climates where crocodile-like creatures and ferns thrived together. Imagine that polar crocodile sunbathing where ice reigns today. The old dinosaur staggers again, its great head drooping, lower tail dragging a deep furrow in the mud. A gust nearly topples it, and for a breathless moment you think it's over. But somehow, it stays upright, swaying like an ancient tree battered by the wind. The herd remains still, their eyes on the storm, their young pressed close. The old one's struggle is a silent story at the margin of their world, unseen or unacknowledged. Historians still debate whether these giants felt sorrow in the way we understand it, whether their bonds went beyond instinct. Watching now, you wonder if it even matters. The result is the same: the herd endures, the straggler fades. A flash of lightning splits the sky, revealing the old dinosaur in stark detail, scars long healed, others newer, still raw from recent battles or accidents. The rain courses down its sides, mixing with mud and blood alike, the storm washing it clean and filthy in the same breath. And then the darkness crashes back, and the plain is once more a world of sound, rain drumming, wind howling, the steady defiant breath of the herd. You crouch lower, soaked through the cold now part of you. Every joint aches, every muscle trembles, but you can't look away. The old dinosaur struggles on, though its steps slow, its breaths shallow. Each movement seems to cost more than the last. The herd's warmth is so close, yet forever out of reach. A predator's cry echoes again, distant but chilling. You stiffen. So does the herd. Their circle tightens, the youngest buried deep in the fortress of bodies. The old one hears it too, and for a heartbeat it lifts its head, eyes bright, nostrils flaring. The fight, it seems, isn't done, not yet. And here's the cruel truth of the night: survival is as much about where you stand as what you are. The old one has fallen outside the line, and the storm takes no pity. The herd cannot break formation, not now, not for one. The circle holds. The straggler stumbles. A fresh wave of rain lashes the plain. The mud deepens. The wind roars. And still the herd endures. And still the old one fights to stay upright, to reach the warmth that slips further away with each passing moment. You can't help but whisper, though no one hears, keep going. But the night has no mercy. The storm rages on. The storm finally begins to lose its fury, the rain thinning to a soft patter that barely stirs the mud anymore. The wind's roar fades to a low murmur, like a tired voice after too much shouting. But the damage has been done. The plain is a mess of dark pools, broken grasses, and slick earth. You hunker deeper into your hiding spot, wet to the bone heart, heavy with what you've witnessed. The old dinosaur is gone from sight, whether fallen or simply hidden by the uneven ground you can't tell. The herd, meanwhile, begins to resettle. The tight formation loosens just a little as if the worst has passed. And now, with the rain's hiss replaced by a deeper quiet, you begin to notice something else, a chorus of soft sounds rising from within the herd. Low grunts, gentle snorts, the occasional soft rumble that seems to vibrate through the ground itself. It's communication, no doubt, but layered beneath it is something almost familiar. The sounds of creatures arguing quietly, the way tired family members might quarrel under their breath while trying to sleep. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs had vocal ranges as complex as modern birds or mammals, whether their nighttime murmurs meant reassurance, disagreement, or something else entirely. Tonight it feels like all of the above. A juvenile, perhaps emboldened by the storm's passing, lets out a soft, high-pitched bleat, almost a complaint. You imagine it saying, "Why did we have to stand there for so long?" A larger adult answers with a low rumble that might as well be, "Because we had to." And then another voice joins in and another until the night air hums with overlapping notes. Some deep and steady, others sharp and quick, like musical sighs exchanged between ancient friends. You watch spellbound as these giant beasts shift and shuffle in the aftermath of the storm, each seeking a slightly better spot, each trying to reclaim a little comfort. A tail flicks here, a head nudges there. One giant lowers itself to the ground again, joints cracking like ancient branches under strain. You can almost hear its relief in the exhale that follows. Here's an odd fact to lighten the mood. Some paleontologists have suggested that certain long-necked dinosaurs might have used their necks in slow-motion slap fights during mating season, swinging those massive appendages like clubs in strange, graceful duels. You glance at the herd and grin at the idea tonight's circle of giants reduced to a neck wrestling contest at dawn. The sounds of the herd's nighttime conversation continue a symphony of the strange and ancient. You wonder what they're saying, if anything at all. Are they checking on the young, counting heads in their own way? Are they complaining about the storm, about the cold, about the mud? Or are these just the sounds of bodies settling air, moving through cavernous lungs? Life making itself heard against the quiet of the plain. Above, the clouds thin and a few stars peek through, tentative. At first, then bolder as the sky clears. The moon, smeared by wisps of cloud, casts a softer light. Now one that glints off wet scales and slick feathers that paints the herd in shades of silver and shadow. The storm's fury has passed, but the night still holds its breath as if waiting to see what comes next. You shift position again, the mud sucking at your boots. Your knees ache, your back is stiff, but you don't move far. You can't. The sight before you, this ancient, restless gathering, has you rooted as surely as if the mud itself held you fast. Historians still debate how much of what we see in modern herd animals can truly be applied to dinosaurs. Did they bicker like elephants at a watering hole or murmur like buffalo bedding down? Did their circles hold rules beyond simple instinct? Tonight, you feel as if you've stepped into the heart of that question and that the answer is as complex as the creatures themselves. A gentle breeze stirs the air, bringing with it the smell of wet grass and ancient breath. The herd's murmuring softens now as one by one the giants begin to settle again. The young huddle close, seeking whatever warmth remains. The adults shift less, their grumbles fewer, their tales still. Even in their arguments, even in their restlessness, there's a rhythm, a pattern. The herd is a living thing greater than the sum of its parts, bound together by need and night and memory. And you remain on the edge, an unseen witness, listening to the quiet arguments of giants as the stars slowly return. The night begins to tip toward dawn, though you can't see the sun yet. The darkness softens the black sky, now tinged with a faint promise of blue. And as the first pale light spills onto the plain, the herd lies still, at least at first glance. But as your eyes adjust, you see it a subtle shifting, the slow uncurling of tails, the stretch of massive legs as the giants begin to shake off the night. The cold has left its mark. A fine frost dusts their backs, clinging to scales and proto-feathers alike, catching the moon's last glow in shimmering patterns. The youngest dinosaurs still pressed together look like statues carved of ice and breath. Mist rises from their bodies in soft streams as they stir their warmth, meeting the chill dawn air in a gentle battle of steam and frost. You watch as one adult rises fully, its movement slow but sure. It stands for a long moment, surveying the plain, nostrils, flaring eyes, scanning the distance for any lingering threat. The others begin to follow one by one, shaking out the stiffness of the night, cracking joints loud as falling branches. Historians still debate whether these giants had routines for greeting the day, whether they paused like this to assess the world before moving, or if they simply woke and wandered on instinct. But the way they stand now, alert but not alarmed, feels deliberate, like a ritual handed down through the ages. The frost begins to melt beneath their feet, the warmth of their bodies turning the ground to mud once more. You see where they lay impressions in the earth, dark and deep shapes that might last a few hours, or if luck and time conspire, a few million years. The thought makes you shiver. The tracks they leave this morning might someday tell their story to a future stranger, just as the fossil beds tell it to you now. A small joke bubbles up in your brain unbidden. What's a dinosaur's favorite bedtime story? Littlefoot and the Great Sleep. You smile despite the cold, despite the stiffness in your joints. Even here, surrounded by the weight of history, your mind can't help but find room for bad puns. The young stir more now, their heads lifting, their eyes blinking at the softening dark. They stretch two small bodies, imitating their elders' necks, craning tails, flicking. The herd begins to move, a slow drift at first, like fog lifting from the plain. The circle unravels gently, the protective fortress no longer needed in the growing light. Here's an odd fact to mull over as you watch. Fossilized dinosaur skin prints have been found so detailed that scientists can see the pattern of individual scales, like the prints left by the herd's feet tonight. Imagine one moment of contact with the earth frozen for eternity. You glance at the ground beneath you, half expecting to see your own boot print already turning to stone. The breeze carries new scents, now damp earth-trampled plants, the faint sweetness of crushed ferns. The storm's fury feels like a distant memory, its traces softened by the dawn. The herd moves as one, their shapes shifting from a circle to a loose column, the young still tucked safely among the adults. Historians still debate whether these morning formations were planned or simply the result of bodies moving toward food, water, or safer ground. But watching now, it feels like purpose guides them, as if they know where the day begins. You rise carefully, legs protesting, body aching. The herd pays you no mind. The plain stretches out before them, silvered by frost, softened by the first blush of morning. Their breath no longer mists so thickly. The cold retreats with the dark. The giants walk on, leaving behind the shapes of their rest, the memory of their warmth, the quiet argument of the night. And you watch them fade into the pale dawn, their forms growing smaller against the horizon, until all that remains is steam rising from their tracks and the soft sound of the wind. The dawn pushes on, brushing the plain with more light, soft and gray. At first, then edged with gold where the clouds thin. You rub at your arms, still cold, and take a hesitant step forward, boots squelching in the mud left behind by the night storm. The herd is a distant line now, moving slow but steady, leaving behind a trail of deep, wide prints that map their path across the plain. You follow at the edge of their wake, not daring to get too close, but drawn to the strange beauty of what they've left behind. And here's what you notice: the ground that held their shapes, their heavy resting forms, has already begun to blur. The frost that outlined them has melted, softening the edges of their night-long beds. Water pools in the deepest hollows reflecting the pale sky. The mud shifts under your feet and you realize how fragile this record is. Historians still debate how so many footprints from creatures like these survived at all, how the right combination of mud sediment and luck could freeze a fleeting moment for millions of years. This morning's prints feel as if they'll vanish by noon. You crouch beside one of the larger impressions, placing your hand in its curve. The mud is cold, the edges already sliding inward, erasing the shape of the giant who slept here. Steam still rises faintly from the deepest part, as if the ground itself remembers the warmth even after the herd has moved on. You can't help but feel a little sadness at how quickly the traces of the night are swallowed up by the day. Above, the sky clears further, the sun breaking through at last. Its light catches on the wet ground, making the plain glitter as though dusted with jewels. But the shine hides the truth. The prints are fading, the marks of the herd's rest dissolving with each passing minute. You walk a little farther, trying to trace the path of their night circle, but the signs grow fainter, the mud smoothed by wind and water. And here's an odd fact to mull over: during certain periods, ancient raindrops themselves were preserved in mud that later turned to stone. Tiny pockmarks frozen mid-splash, telling the story of a shower from millions of years ago. You glance at the ground, half expecting to see those ancient raindrop craters mixed with the herd's prints, but the night storm left nothing so delicate behind. The breeze picks up cooler now that the storm has passed. It stirs the grass, the reeds along the distant stream, and the loose mud at your feet. Each gust blurs the prints a little more, filling them in grain by grain. You try to memorize the shapes, the sizes, the patterns of the herd's sleep, knowing they'll be gone soon, erased by the plain's slow breath. Historians still debate what these fading tracks can tell us, whether they reveal true behavior or only the accident of a single night, a single storm. Were these herds always so careful in their rest, so united in their patterns? Or is what you've seen tonight a rare moment, a gift of circumstance lost to time, except when preserved by chance? You rise, brushing mud from your hands, and take one last look at the field of vanishing prints. The sun climbs higher, the warmth of its light drying the surface, hardening some spots, softening others. The herd is long gone now, their shapes tiny against the brightening horizon. All that remains is this fading memory, this quiet proof of their passing, soon to be claimed by the plain. And you stand alone in the morning light, witness to a story the world will soon forget. You stay there for a while longer, boots rooted in the soft earth, eyes tracing the last of the blurred prints as they vanish under the rising sun. The herd has disappeared into the distance, now little more than shadows against the edge of the world. And in the quiet that follows, your mind drifts not to what you've seen, but to what others have tried to piece together from scenes like this. Historians still debate whether these fossilized trackways, those rare and lucky survivors of time, truly tell the story of herd sleep. Some argue they do, pointing to clusters of prints that suggest creatures resting in groups. Others say we read too much into them, that what survives is too fragmentary, too shaped by chance to be trusted. And yet here you are, staring at the marks left by bodies at rest, at the faint outlines of circles formed against the dark. Could they really mean nothing? You shake your head, smirking to yourself. This is why you came to stand where the past and present blur, to feel the pull of questions no one can answer for sure. The sun climbs higher, burning off the last of the mist. You take a slow breath, filling your lungs with the smell of wet grass and warming earth. And as you do, your thoughts stray to the places where these stories are written in stone, the bone beds, the nesting sites, the scattered fossils that scientists labor over for decades. You picture them brushing dirt from bone mapping ancient footprints, one careful square at a time, arguing over every detail. The kind of arguments that last lifetimes. The kind you'd join yourself if you had the patience. And here's an odd fact to break up the seriousness: some ancient insects from the dinosaur age have left behind fossils so fine that the pattern of their wing veins is still visible today. Imagine that the map of a single fragile wing surviving for eons, while the giant beasts who thundered across this plain left only scattered hints of their passing. You start to walk now, boots squelching through the softest mud, each step leaving a print that the sun will soon bake hard, or the breeze will soon erase. You follow the herd's path at a distance, drawn by the hope of more signs, more clues. But the plain ahead is clean swept by the storm and wind. No more prints. No more hints of where they lay or how they rose. Just open land and the sound of birds greeting the morning. Historians still debate whether the fossil sites we study today captured moments like this one, a single night's rest, a sudden storm, a chance encounter with mud that hardened just right, or whether those sites are composites layers of lives piled atop one another by the slow churn of time. Either way, you can see how easy it is to lose the details, how quickly the earth reclaims its surface, smoothing out the past until only the luckiest moments remain. You stop at a rise and look back. The field where the herd slept is nearly featureless now, the prints filled in the earth, drying the frost melted to water and memory. You squint against the sun, trying to picture them there again. Giants huddled for warmth, breath misting in the dark. But the morning light makes it harder. The past slips away in the glare, leaving you with only what you carried in your mind. A breeze stirs your hair cooler now than you'd expect for this hour. It brings with it the faintest echo of the herd's scent, or maybe that's just your imagination. Either way, it makes you smile, small, tired, but real. You came looking for answers, but the plain offers only questions today. And as you turn to follow the herd's fading path, you feel the weight of all those unanswered debates, those scattered clues, those vanished prints. And you walk on one more seeker in the endless puzzle of the ages. The morning warms the sky clear, now brushed with faint streaks of cloud that seem to stretch endlessly above the plain. You follow the direction the herd took, though you know they're far ahead by now, already beyond sight. Your boots squelch less with each step, the mud drying fast beneath the sun's steady gaze. And as you walk, something small and quick catches your eye. A flicker of movement between the tufts of grass darting low and fast. You crouch instinctively, trying to spot it again. There, a tiny mammal, no larger than your hand, fur matted with dew, nose twitching as it sniffs at the ground where the giants once lay. It scurries forward, weaving between what's left of the deep tracks, disappearing and reappearing like a shadow with a mind of its own. You blink, amused. Here in the wake of the herd is a world of creatures you'd barely thought about all night. Historians still debate the exact relationships between these small mammals and their giant neighbors. Did they merely coexist, or did they rely on the herds in subtle ways, following them for scraps, using their abandoned sleeping sites for shelter, even timing their movements to the rhythms of the giants? Watching this one now bold and busy in the dawn, you can't help but think there was more connection than we'll ever prove. The little creature pauses at the edge of a footprint filled with rainwater, dips its head and drinks. The scene feels absurdly peaceful after the drama of the night, the predator's cry, the storm's fury, the endless tension of the herd's vigilance. And now here's this tiny survivor sipping from the puddle, left in a giant's step, as if the whole plain belongs to it. You shift your weight, trying not to startle the mammal, but a pebble rolls beneath your boot. The creature freezes, eyes wide, body taut with fear. Then, with a twitch of its tail, it vanishes into the grass, gone, as if it had never been. You grin despite yourself. Fast little thing. No wonder mammals managed to hang on through everything the age of dinosaurs threw at them. Here's an odd fact to chew on as you stand there, catching your breath. Some ancient mammals of this era had gliding membranes not unlike modern flying squirrels. Imagine that tiny creature soaring between trees while giants thundered below. The thought almost makes you dizzy, picturing two worlds layered atop each other, one of bulk and muscle, one of speed and stealth. The plain grows quieter now, the bird song stronger as the sun climbs. The ground drying and cracking again gives up the last of its secrets to the air. The warmth of the herds passing. The damp scent of mud turned to dust, the faintest hint of crushed greenery. You glance around, half hoping to spot another of the plain's small residents, but the world has settled back into stillness. Historians still debate how many species of small mammals shared these lands with the dinosaurs, and whether they thrived because of the giants or despite them. Some argue that the great herds shaped the very ecosystems the mammals depended on, trampling paths, opening clearings, changing the flow of water. Others believe the mammals simply endured biding their time in the giants' shadows. Watching now, you wonder if both are true. You step away from the footprint pool where the mammal drank, feeling the ground firmer beneath you with each stride. The plain ahead seems emptier without the herd, but you know it isn't. Beneath the grasses within the soil, life hums on, waiting for its next chance to show itself. The small ones, the unseen ones, the true survivors of the age. And you walk on eyes open for what the herd left behind, and for the hidden world that follows in their mighty footsteps. The warmth of the sun grows steady, and with it the plain begins to come alive in a different way. The chill that clung to the night fades, leaving behind a damp freshness in the air, the scent of rain-washed grass, of mud drying beneath the sky's gaze, of life stirring after the long dark. You pause atop a small rise, watching the herd in the far distance as they begin to slow, then stop. The protective formation of the night breaks apart, the great bodies separating, with the unhurried grace of creatures that have survived another night, another storm. The youngest are first to move beyond the circle's remnants, stretching stiff legs, shaking out the damp that clings to their sides. Their energy is almost contagious. You feel it in your own bones, a kind of relief, as if you too have been huddled tight all night. The adults follow, slower, deliberate, as if savoring the warmth of the sun on their backs, the promise of a day unbroken by storm or predator. The circle that kept them safe, that preserved their warmth through the long cold hours, dissolves into motion. Tails swing wide as they spread out, heads dipping to graze on the battered plants, feet squelching softly in the lingering mud. The fortress of the night becomes the foraging ground of the day. Historians still debate whether such herd formations broke apart this smoothly each morning, or if disputes arose whether dominant individuals pushed their way to the front, or if order simply unraveled with the dawn's light. Watching now, it feels less like hierarchy and more like habit, a rhythm as natural as the rising sun. You step carefully over the mud-churned ground, following the traces of the departing herd. Their tracks, deep and clear near their resting place, become shallower as they move outward, their weight more evenly, spread, their pace less burdened by the huddle of the night. The ground beneath your feet grows firmer, the mud drying fast, leaving only dark stains where their feet press deepest. You wonder how long these marks will last, a day, a week, a season, before the wind and rain smooth them away. Here's an odd fact to lighten the mood. Some ancient turtles that shared this landscape with the dinosaurs could grow as large as small cars plodding along the same trails, perhaps even mistaken for distant cousins by predators who weren't picky about dinner. The idea makes you grin. Imagine a predator's frustration. Ah, a tasty sauropod. Wait, nope, shell. The herd begins to spread across the plain now, no longer a tight unit, but a loose network of giants, each within sight of the others, but with space enough to graze in peace. The young stick close to their mothers or aunts, still wary after the night's dangers. The air is filled with the sound of tearing plants, of soft snorts of feet squishing through the last of the mud. It's the music of survival, ordinary and ancient. Historians still debate whether this dispersal marked the true end of a herd's nightly unity, or if invisible ties held them close even at distance. Were they bound by loyalty, by shared memory, or simply by the safety of numbers? You watch the slow drift of giants and think the answer might be yes to all three. The morning breeze picks up, carrying with it the sense of trampled grass and turned earth, of fresh day and fading night. You draw it deep into your lungs, feeling it settle. Your thoughts clear your mind. The herd has done what it must, survive the storm, protected its young, held the night at bay. And now it claims the day. And you stand a quiet observer as the warmth of the group scatters into the sunlit plain, leaving only memory and soft footprints behind. You linger on the rise, boots rooted in the firming ground, watching as the herd moves steadily onward, their shapes growing smaller with each passing moment. The sun now climbs high enough to cast long, pale shadows, stretching the giant's forms across the plain, like fading memories. The air hums with quiet. No storm, no predator's cry, no clash of giants, just the soft rustle of grass in the breeze, the occasional splash where a foot meets lingering water, the distant rumble of footfalls swallowed by the vastness of the land. And as you watch the rhythm of the herd's life, their nightly unity, their morning dispersal begins to feel like something larger than instinct, larger than survival. It feels like a forgotten rhythm, one that once shaped the world and has now slipped beneath the surface of memory. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs held to patterns beyond mere necessity, whether their movements, their gatherings, their retreats were guided by something deeper than hunger or fear. But standing here now, watching their slow departure, you sense that those patterns were as much a part of the land as the rivers, the hills, the endless sky. The warmth of the group lingers in the air, though the bodies are gone. You feel it in the softness of the ground where they lay in the faint mist, still rising from the deepest prints in the hush that follows them like an echo. The circle that once held the night's cold at bay has unraveled into the open plain, its memory marked only by disturbed earth and trampled grass. And even those signs will fade soon enough, claimed by sun, wind, and rain. Here's an odd fact for you. Some ancient plants trampled by these giants had chemical defenses so strong that they could slow the digestion of their predators, forcing the dinosaurs to process food in enormous fermenting guts. You grin at the thought, giants fueled by gas-powered furnaces, leaving behind not just footprints, but clouds of prehistoric flatulence on the wind. The plain brightens as the morning deepens, the sky wide and clear, the storm's fury now just a damp memory clinging to the ground. The herd's shapes merge with the horizon, at last indistinct, now part of the land itself once more. You stand alone with the quiet, with the empty prints, with the fading warmth that seems to whisper of the night's closeness, its dangers, its strange shared peace. Historians still debate what drove these herds forward each day. Was it simply the search for food and water? Or did they feel in some forgotten way the pull of the land beneath their feet, the call of ancient paths worn smooth by generations before them? Watching the horizon, now you wonder if we'll ever know, or if it matters. The rhythm remains whether we name it or not. You draw in a long breath, the air fresh, cool, and sweet, with the scent of wet grass, of mud drying in the sun, of a world slowly waking. The herd has moved on. The night has given way to day. And you turn at last, boots heavy with mud, heart full of the quiet majesty you've witnessed, and begin your own slow walk back across the plain, leaving behind your prints to join the vanishing story of the herd. The night began with the quiet arrival of a massive herd settling on the ancient plain, forming a protective circle beneath the starlit sky. As you watched from the shadows, the giants arranged themselves with deliberate care, their bodies creating a living fortress against predators and cold. The youngest nestled safely at the core, warmed by the breath and bulk of their elders, while you observed their slow, steady rhythm of life. A storm swept in, challenging the herd's unity, yet they endured, their warmth rising as mist into the dark. A lone predator tested their defenses, only to slink away, outmatched by the fortress of tails and muscle. Through the storm's fury and the night's dangers, you witnessed the herd's strength, their quiet arguments, their tender protections. You saw an elder falter, left at the margin of safety as survival demanded hard choices. Dawn brought dispersal, the circle dissolving as the giants stretched and moved, leaving behind soft impressions that the sun and wind quickly erased. Small mammals scurried in the herd's wake, claiming the abandoned ground for their own fleeting needs. As the morning brightened, the herd's shapes faded into the horizon, their warmth a memory on the breeze. You stood in the quiet, left behind the forgotten rhythm of the herd's night-long huddle, lingering in the soft ground and the empty plain. And with the sun high and the world awake, you turned at last carrying the silent story of that ancient night within you.